This is an old canvas that I've decided to reuse. It's 8 by 10 wood panel. I've collected up some mostly neutral papers. I just went through and picked some. I probably won't need very much. It's a very small canvas. I've got some that are heavy papers and some that are more translucent that I'll probably layer on top. As far as medium, I've got a liquid medium that I'll use for the thin stuff like the tissue paper and the translucent papers. I have got a regular gel medium that I will use for the paper. And if I do have some heavier papers or some fabric that I decide to put on, I like to use a heavy medium for that. And at the end, once the first layer's down, I'll probably use some gesso watered down to just mellow everything out a bit. Now, I don't want it to be entirely neutral on the bottom. I like the idea of some bits and pieces of other things showing through around and behind the wings. So I'm going to keep that in mind as I go too. You can use any paintbrush for this. It really doesn't matter. Don't use an expensive, perfect new one, because sometimes using the medium on them can be hard. I'm just going to use a number 10. I think it's a filbert. I've lit a candle. I collected up a few things as inspiration. I've got a dried rose, and I like the sort of rusty oranges and the dark reds. That was a bit of my inspiration. I don't use a ruler for this. I don't use scissors for this, but you certainly could. Sometimes I rip with a ruler. With something this small, I'm probably just going to rip the paper by hand. And I want to be aware of all this fun stuff underneath. I don't want to cover it completely. Now, this is a piece of tissue paper with sparkles in it, and then for whatever reason, oh, it's not stuck on. I've got another piece. So these are ones that I may use somewhere to let some of what's happening underneath show through. I treated this tissue paper for another project with matte medium, so I coated both sides with medium, so it's no longer easily ripped or anything like tissue paper would normally be. That was just an experiment I did, and I actually really liked how that turned out. I'm going to put the medium right onto the substrate, but you certainly could have a palette and add things on there first. I want the sparkly side up. Put it right up here. I'm going to go right over the edge with a plan to trim it after. With heavier papers, I would probably apply the medium to the substrate and to the back of the paper, but because it's tissue paper, I'm not going to worry about that. It's fairly thin, but it is acting a little differently because it's been treated with the medium already. So there's just a little bit of change. That's the beginning. I always like to use music. I've got all these old music books. Put a piece of this on. I don't really like the straight lines here for this, so I'm going to get rid of that part. I want it to be very organic. Have these little tiny faces. They're painted on plates from a magazine, but thinking about, and they may get covered up at some point, but I had this idea of having them kind of showing through a bit in the background. I love faces. It's hard for me to not think about including faces in my art. switching to the gel medium. I just prefer to use it unless I'm using really thin breakable papers. I'm smoothing these down just to make sure there's no air underneath, no bumps, just so that I know they've got a nice smooth adhesion. If you've got canvases around or different pieces of art you've made that you've kind of grown beyond and you don't love them anymore and you don't really know what to do with them, don't be afraid to let them go. To enjoy them, have a look at them and say, okay, I'm ready to move on from this and make something new. You don't need to dispose of them, and you don't need to always be buying a brand new canvas or substrate each time. Sometimes it's okay to just hit refresh on an old canvas. Now this is just kind of falling apart on me, but I don't mind that at all. The first layers with mixed media are usually the freest, where you really don't have to think much at all about the placement of things or the impact it's going to have, because you know that a lot of this will be covered, and the bits and pieces that do remain, you won't be seeing much of them. Some pieces from my jelly plate. Don't know that I want to have shine in the background though. I'm setting aside some of the translucents because I am going to use some. I'm just thinking about putting a few opaque things on underneath them. Don't know if I want any more text or not. It's another jelly plate one, but it's got the iridescence on it. I'm gonna put this on just for fun. It's not following my color plans at all, but that's okay. I thought about having a butterfly in the background that'll show through. A lot of these pages are from old encyclopedias, which are really easy to find nowadays at thrift stores because people are getting rid of them now that all that information is so easy to find on the internet. There's so many great things in these books for paper collage. It's from an old dictionary. These are photocopies of old postcards and letters that were sent to me that I was using for my personal portraits workshop. I don't need to do as much collage as I'm doing. I just like to do it. So I soaked a rusty nail in water and vinegar and then wrapped it up in a piece of paper. So this is just a bit of the rust that's come off. It was a nail from a fence from the farm I grew up on, and that was part of what I used in my personal portrait. So I've, for the most part, just been using the gel medium for everything, and you certainly don't need to switch up mediums as you go through this. If you have one that works, you can also be using just regular glue, Mod Podge, whatever you have that you like to use. So this was tissue that you can buy to wrap fresh flowers in, and this is a piece of an old sewing pattern. This is an old tea bag that I've painted on. The great thing about these little projects, like the Wings Workshop, is that you can use up bits and pieces that are left over from other projects. All those little pieces that you've hung on to because they're too pretty to throw away. This is a great place to give them a new home. To give them a new home and a new life. This is another old tea bag one that I haven't painted on at all. So the pieces of tissue that I had the medium on already are drying a little bumpy, but I don't mind the texture. So this tea bag is coming in handy at the end here, just to add a bit of neutrality to the different colors that are on here, to create a little bit more harmony. probably time for me to stop. I don't know where I'll even put things anymore. And there's so many cool things that are going on already. I've done at this point. Okay, I'm going to turn the camera off for a minute and use a heat gun to dry these first layers. This is completely dry now, and I was working on another project and was left with a little bit of gold and a little bit of white gesso on my palette, and I think I'm going to use it just to kind of maybe blend everything a little bit. That's what the gesso will do anyway. And then maybe a little gold around the sides. I think I need a little bit more of the gesso. Paper collage that's there so far, and the old painting, just to send it more into the back, not everywhere. I've added some water so it's not quite so white, and as it dries I find it kind of mellows out and makes everything just blend together a little bit better. So you can kind of see at this point, Everything's a little bit mellower, a little bit softer, but you can still see absolutely everything that's happening in the collage. I haven't fully covered anything, which was my intention. Another thing I sometimes do is I would take a palette knife or a plastic card like this, and if I go over, it tends to catch on all the wrinkles or the separations between the papers, so it can make the layers of your paper collage stand out a little more, if that's something you want. I don't know if I want it. I'm just going to see what it looks like. So I may leave some of it, blend some of it in. And the very last thing I'm going to do is add some gold around the sides. Now I'm seeing where I've got paper that isn't quite glued down on the sides that I think I may glue down and just leave hanging over the sides. So I'll do that first, and then I'm going to use some of this gold paint and create a gold edge. I'm using a heavy gel gloss just because it's out on my paint table, or my art table. You can use any type of medium for this. Okay, so hopefully the fact that that's a bit wet still, that the medium still wet, won't impact. So it's an iridescent gold that I've got here on my palette. And I'm not really sure how I want to apply it. Maybe I'll try with this palette knife since I have it out. If at the end I feel like there's too much gold on the front, I can go back and take some of it off. This wasn't part of my plan, but I'm very much an intuitive painter, and if I have a plan, which I very seldom do, I would say I never follow it, or I never follow it for long. If I decide this is too much gold, it'd be very easy just to cover it over with a bit of watered down white paint, a bit of gesso, or I could sand it off. So I used up the paint on my palette, which I always like to do because I don't want to waste any of it, and I don't want it to have to throw it away or wash it down the sink. And in the process, I think I've created a really cool effect on this substrate.